And class is in session, everybody. Accademia Giallo is back roaring into 2026 with, I'm just going to put it out here, and I am perfectly open to being corrected. I think the film we're talking about today is possibly the wildest movie that we've ever discussed. Not the wildest Giallo that's ever been made, because as evidenced by the very nature of the series, I've not seen all of them. But watching A Hyena in the Safe, I was floored. I'd never heard of this movie before. Celluloid Dreams just came out with a Blu-ray of it, which I have right here, which you can pick up and find retailers everywhere. And it's not, just real quick, it's not a 4K, it's a regular Blu-ray, but watching it on a 4K television, I couldn't tell the difference. It looks amazing. The Henkels did a fantastic job on the restoration, as they tend to do. But today we're going to talk about this film from 1968. And I'm sure that the "is this a Giallo" debate is going to rear its ugly or not so ugly head, depending on how you feel about that argument, today as we get into this. It's like Giallo meets Reservoir Dogs or something, both involving diamonds, both involving very colorful characters, betrayals, death, the entire thing. And I'm very excited to talk about this. I'm also excited to get the temperature, and that's not an Arctic blast reference for those of us suffering in the Midwest. The reading from my fellow panelists, dare I say faculty here at Accademia Giallo, of what they think about this. I have no idea. I've not asked, did no polling beforehand. So we're going to get some fresh takes and discuss A Hyena in the Safe. Before we do that, who are we? We are Accademia Giallo. I am Ian Simmons of Kicking the Seat. We have John Kitley of Kitley's Crypt. We have Aaron Christensen, AC of Horror 101 with Dr. AC, and Steve, aka Big Swifty 500 of, well, Accademia Giallo. So thanks, gentlemen, for joining us. And I want to go around the table before we get into what this movie is about, really, and just get a yay or nay on your high or low opinions of this film. So, AC, let's start with you. Yay or nay on Hyena in the Safe?
I had also never heard of it before, and I thought it was very entertaining. I had a good time. Again, I was a little reluctant. I was like, boy, there's so many movies out there that we maybe still haven't covered that are, on the master Giallo list. But I had a good time. So yes, yay.
All right. Swifty.
I give it a big yay. I've heard of this movie for the past 10 or 15 years, but I never had a chance to see it. And I'm not sure if I would have even gotten around to seeing it if it wasn't for you, Ian. So thank you for recommending this for this episode. I really enjoyed this a lot. It was off the wall. It's definitely got some Giallo elements. It's got a lot of James Bond type of stuff going on. Overall, the soundtrack was amazing. I really enjoyed myself with this one.
All right. And John Kitley.
I had never heard of this before at all. So it's definitely entertaining. I mean, some of the cinematography in here is incredible. Yep. Some of the shots and everything. But I will be the first to say this is not a Giallo.
Okay.
This is more of a Agatha Christie type style murder mystery with multiple murders, or the sense that there's a bunch of people locked in a house. Someone's a murderer and someone keeps getting knocked off as we go along. But I didn't see any stereotypes of what I guess we would consider a Giallo, other than a hidden killer.
Okay, well, let's go down the list. We don't have bumbling detectives because it's a very insulated, isolated story. There's no sign of J&B, which I am willing to make an exception in this case and just say I still want to count this as a Giallo, even though I didn't even my indignation did not even register watching this movie until afterwards. I was like, there was no scotch in this movie. We see a pair of hands, several pairs of hands doing killing and nefarious deeds, but no black gloves. It is Italian. So what, Kelly, aside from some of the other things you mentioned, what is keeping this out of the realm of Giallo for you?
Well, it just didn't have the feel. Like I said, it was more of a murder mystery, like an Agatha Christie type plot, as opposed to a killer, like all the things you mentioned, a killer on the loose and an amateur detective trying to figure out what was going on. The only people that were trying to figure out really what was going on was the audience.
Mhm.
Yeah. Now, those are great points, and I want to ask something here. This is 1968, so this is several years before what we would come to know as Giallo really was Giallo. Could this be considered proto Giallo, or someone saying, let's take the Agatha Christie kind of elements, which we have seen in some other films before, and just kind of play around with it? But were there any precursors here that you could see that might show up in later movies, or is this just something like it's called Giallo maybe as a marketing thing? Nowadays people, they don't really know how to classify it because Agatha Christie isn't necessarily a genre.
If this came out after Bird with the Crystal Plumage and the Jolly Boom was in full bloom, that was tough to say. Then I would say that yes, they would try to sell it as a giallo, but I think it is more just kind of a murder mystery. I was surprised at how kind of not very ornate our deaths are. I think that's another thing that kind of keeps it out of our giallo realm, is that there's not much in the way of creative kills. It's just kind of like people getting bumped off. And in some ways, I felt like it was almost like shy about its murders. Like the electrocution death, I was like, what happened? Like I had to like back up and be like, what? And then thankfully they went on and explained that he'd been electrocuted. Cause I was like, I don't even know what just happened. Like he picked it up and he was like, so, things like that, I feel like they've just kind of, they're steering clear of lingering on the murders. They want you to know that, there's one less character in the mix, who's the murderer going to be. But in terms of like kind of making that the raison d'etre of the movie itself, which I think is oftentimes what we look for in a giallo, we don't get that here.
Okay, fair enough. Well, let's talk about what this movie is. A group of nefarious people get together at this secluded, very impressive estate. It turns out it's been 11 months since this grand heist involving an untold amount of a sum of money involving diamonds. I'm getting scrambled up here. I have not had nearly enough coffee today, or maybe too much.
Ian, were those really diamonds? Because at the end, they kind of look like my crushed ice out of my dispenser. Those are the poorest excuses for diamonds in a movie I've ever seen.
Well, I like how they shored it up by going, oh, they're fake. No, they're real. No, they're fake. No, I'm like, okay, well, whichever one they are, they look real fake.
I don't think I've been that close to actual diamonds, at least ones that size. So I couldn't tell you. And I like ultimately how this movie is resolved, but you're right, AC, there was a little bit too much, stepping across the line back and forth.
Well, they distracted you with that pulsing yellow blob down the left-hand corner for about 5 minutes. I was like, is that what's happening?
Honestly, when I saw that, we'll get to what that actually was in a minute, but that giant pulsating yellow blob, I thought there was a problem with the Blu-ray I was watching. Like it was a glitch or something that they forgot to clean up. But I'm like, no, there's something that, because I could tell that it was forming the outline of the word fiend or Fine. But it's almost like the proto end credits or mid credit sequence. It would have been the point where the screen goes black and they just pick up with this kind of a coda, and then they would have Finn come up at the very end. But this is like, the stay in your seat. There's still something going on. And also what's up with this blob anticipation. So I really kind of dug that. But anyway, there's these people get together. There's 7 keys, each being held by
6.
Is it 6? I thought it was 7.
6.
Wow. How did I miss that?
You just wanted there to be an extra key. You wanted this to be even longer. You were having so much fun. You're like, maybe you could have one more key.
I did kind of want there to be an extra key. But okay, we'll just say there's 6 keys, but I'm going to go back and check my notes because that feels wrong. Anyway, there's 6 keys to this giant safe, the titular safe, that comes rising up on this plinth out of the pool in this estate. It's very technologically advanced. There's apparently a layer of uranium surrounding the inner vault, so that if anyone tampers with it, they're going to die horribly of radiation. But if they unlock this thing, they're in for a real treat as far as life-changing money. Of course, when everyone gets together at the house, they all produce their keys except for one guy, the shifty, cocky dude who walks in the place with that kind of the George Clooney swagger and Caesar cut, making like he's the big man. But he can't find his key, which he's placed inside of his cigarette case. He's fumbling for it, and it becomes a real problem because if he can't produce the key, there's a very good chance the rest of the people in the room are going to bump him off or torture him until they find the key and then bump him off. This leads to death. And some attacks on some of the other people in the house. And through the course of the movie, although I would say I expected a lot more, I guess, spacing out of the murders. This movie is very back heavy in terms of the graphic death. But it's sort of like that 10 Little Indians, very Agatha Christie kind of storytelling. But at the end, and we are talking spoilers here, there is that great, I'm going to go back to the Reservoir Dogs thing, where the person who you think is probably the least likely to get away with it kind of gets away with it. And the person you think has all the answers ends up going insane and possibly dying or being set up to be horribly killed by the big boss who's about to show up. I'm going to need all of your help to figure out what happened with Anna at the end of this movie, because last time I saw her, she was on this weird lazy Suze of insanity and mixed with the end of Slaughter High. And I don't know what was going on there.
That ending was great when she was spinning around, and the camera work there was really good. I guess they filmed it and probably just sped it up, but they had a lot of alternating colors, reminded me of a lot of Bava's work, the greens and the blues and the reds. It was really cool. But I watched this 1.5 times. I watched it for the first time yesterday, and I watched it the second half again today, and I'm still confused as to what. Anna fills in for the boss, the quote-unquote boss, who's apparently dead.
Boris,
but then there's another boss up in a helicopter.
Who's the guy in the helicopter?
I'm completely lost. I really am. I need you guys to walk me through this one.
Yeah, I don't know who the guy in the helicopter is who's like threatening everybody and saying, I'm going to come down there any second now, and I'm going to take half those diamonds. And I'm like, what? Who are you, man? Like, other than the guy with the helicopter.
He's the seventh key.
He's
he's
pretty, which should be another Giallo movie, The Seventh Key. But yeah, it is, that part's a little weird. But I do like the setup in that, like, you have to have all 6 keys present in order to open this ornate safe. And it's almost, you can't start killing each other off because you need to know where the key is before you do that. So I think once his key appears, then we start moving along in a logical step because everybody knows everybody has a key at that point. But I really liked how we were kind of stuck, with Albert, our junkie, like who he didn't know where the key was, which made it even more interesting. I was like, if he doesn't know where it is, like, it's not like he's holding out. But then you find out that his accomplice has the key, unbeknownst to him.
And I think that's what I liked about this movie a lot. One of the many things is the way that we are plopped down in this situation, and we are allowed to feel like these characters at some point, because who hasn't lost their keys or some very valuable item, and they're scrambling, they're checking all the pockets, they're looking outside, they're retracing their steps, but the stakes are so high. And it was great to see our Albert character, played by Sandro Pisocero, go from, like I mentioned, the swaggering guy who comes in, he's got the hot blonde who's kind of his date or associate or whatever, and he thinks he's gonna walk out of there with all this money, and very quickly he turns into this sweaty, groveling junkie mess, as you point out. And at one point he goes up to this roof, or like in his veranda, and gets pushed off of it. I didn't detect any like bad dummy work in there. It felt very stunty, or maybe it was just hidden by the crazy editing. The only dummy work that I could see was at the end when Anna is on her lazy Susan thing. I felt like they rotated the actress in and out with a mannequin because the real actress would have gotten very sick. But was that a dummy that fell off of that roof there? What do you think, guys?
No, that was the real actor, Ian.
Yeah.
I'd never heard of him before, during, or since. So
Most of these people only made 1 or 2 films.
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
wow, that's crazy to me, because I think there's not a dud, I think, in this entire cast. They're all very fascinating to look at, and they do a lot with these the mysterious characters.
But I liked how it's kind of like an international band of,
Yep.
like we have Klaus, who is German, I guess.
Yes.
We have Steve, who has his limp. We have Karina, who's our brunette girl. We have Janine, who's our blonde girl. And then we have Juan, who's got his ever-present cigar. And then this is all hosted by Anna, who is our, Boris's assistant, I guess, who halfway through the movie starts wearing her hair beneath her chin. And I was like, I've never seen that in a movie, because it's a terrible look. Like, why would you do that? It was so distracting to me. And I kept like, is that even Anna anymore? Like, who is this weirdo who rolled in and decided they were going to do, tie off make a chin strap of their hair?
I didn't even pick up on that.
Ian, come on.
I'm not a hair guy. She could have shown up halfway through wearing a bald cap. I probably wouldn't even notice.
Oh, yeah.
The outfits these people wear in this movie are just off the wall. I mean, that I think it's white, red, and black pinstripe suit that Albert's wearing in the beginning.
I did notice that. Yeah, that was very Lex Luthor. I don't know.
I gotta get me one of those. I mean, and then, Anna's roaming around the house in the middle of the night wearing, silver lame and feather boas in the middle of the night. I'm like, okay, whatever.
She has like her little sequins, like, put onto her face. I was like, wow, she has too much time on her hands.
I cleared something up. I solved the mystery here as to why I thought there were 7 keys, because there are 7 participants. Janine was the guest of Albert, and she was the one, again, spoiler alert, who stole Albert's key, and she had it pinned up in her hair,
which is a good thing, because they tore all her clothes off. I was like, wow, that was exciting. And the fact that it was the 2 women that was something we hadn't seen before.
Just a side note, in my notes for each character, for Janine, I had Albert's girlfriend Dash gets slapped a lot.
Yeah.
She got slapped so many times in this movie. It's ridiculous.
She did. And I want to go back to what you just said there, AC, about the fact that it was the other 2 female accomplices who did that attacking. I don't know if that was, well, we've seen violence against women in these movies from guys before, but in '68, I'm wondering if that was something that was still was frowned upon or whatever, because it just seemed like, especially if it had been one of the other, like Juan, who is our substitute character, if he had been the one to kind of rough her up, I think that would have really come off poorly and set a bad taste for the rest of the film.
Well, it takes the sexual element out of it. The fact that it's the women doing it makes it seem like it's purely about where have you hidden it, as opposed to, the men trying to get her clothes off to perhaps do something nefarious with her. Either way, it was really shocking. And I was like, wow, it's, you get it. It's a means by which to provide the titillation for an audience, but it doesn't bring the sexual violence aspect into it. So I was kind of thankful for that. It was a refreshing change of pace from what we've seen in the past.
Well, and on that note, again, I don't know if this is a standards thing or what, but the actress who played Janine, Christina Gaioni, when she's being, I think there might be, I hate to get all lewd and lascivious here, but I'm talking kind of scientifically about the way the scene unfolds. There's one, I think, brief shot where you see her full breast, but as all of her clothes are being ripped off, the angles are such, and she's covering her rather considerable bosom with her hands. So it almost feels like we're going to do this as a PG-13 kind of attack. We're not going to do anything to give anybody an excuse to, get one hand free, which I thought was, I kind of appreciated that, but also the framing looked odd in the moment, because I don't know if someone being mobbed like that would have been able to cover up to that degree.
I had never seen her before as an actress, but like in the end credits, she's the one with the special consideration, special casting. So, and you look at her filmography, she's got a pretty extensive one. If you look on IMDb, she's the only one like with a headshot. Everybody else is just kind of names. So I feel like she was somebody who maybe was a French sex kitten type of thing in the Bardot mold, and that they brought in to kind of fill that role.
Yeah, it's entirely possible. But I'm looking at that now. It's just all anonymous circles and her. But okay, so let's get into some of the intrigue involving these keys. There are hidden cameras above the beds in each of these rooms. And what I liked about the POVs of these cameras is we're looking down on each of the beds of our guests, and we're also seeing them through these like diamond chandeliers. So it's not really a kaleidoscope effect, but there's something very otherworldly about what we're watching through there. And we see that's when we get the revelation that Janine stole Albert's key and had it hidden up in her hair. And that's also where, I don't remember if we saw the person come. I think we saw the person come into the room, and then we cut away later, and it turns out it was Steve who had attacked her. And was it Nina or Karina? Sorry, who came in and threw a pillow on top of the body to make it look like she was suffocated. I guess she didn't notice the giant stab wound in the chest, but so that's very odd. But I like the crossing, the double crossing, the weird relationships between these characters, because again, it does feel like they came together to pull off this job, but they didn't necessarily know each other. And that's probably for the best, because I don't think they would have lasted long in any kind of like real relationship. They're very cutthroat.
I like how this closed circuit TV starts off very kind of organic, but then she just keeps hitting the same button to get all the different views. And I'm like, okay, that's handy. And then by the time we get to, I think it's Klaus and Steve, like fighting each other out in the yard, like the closed circuit TV's like got all these different angles. I was like, wow, this is very very ornate in terms of the coverage.
Well, also because she had stopped. I don't think there's any buttons being pressed during that back and forth. We're seeing that it's like we're watching the movie on the security camera monitor.
Yeah.
You're also talking about a house that has a garage that can be completely submerged in water.
Yep.
Yeah, watertight.
Not only the safe underneath the swimming pool. So
you have the swimming pool with the plastic geodome too. I mean, this is a great house.
Yeah, and an observatory.
Yeah. I
mean, who's going to design their house? I need a garage that I can completely submerge in water, because one day
I might,
I may need to trap somebody in there.
I was thinking about this, John, and we're jumping far ahead, but that's fine because there's a lot to talk about this movie. It's not quite an airtight garage, because I was watching the coverage of it. You can see like little gaps, so it's feasible that water could have kind of trickled out. But I think we're meant to believe that it was such a large volume of water pulling in or pushing it that it would have filled up.
But it didn't fill up. That's the funny part. Klaus, if he had stayed outside of the car.
Yeah, if he stayed on top of the car, he would have been fine.
He would have been fine, because what's his name? Steve is floating around dead in there. He's floating at the top.
Albert.
That's Albert floating. Yeah. But that's
it's Steve, Klaus. But if he would have stayed outside the car, he could have literally still been alive, still breathing, because there was still a good chunk of space at the top.
But I also feel like that was like
electrified it again.
Yeah, that's right. You could have just like electrocuted all the water in there. I did think that like it was interesting that became like the showcase set piece. Yeah. Like we're like, oh, the suspense. This because I mentioned earlier that how like all the deaths are kind of pretty quick, and this was the only one that was kind of prolonged and quote unquote suspenseful. And I was like, okay, like how long are we going to be with Albert floating around while Klaus continues to climb in and out of the car? And I don't think it was that suspenseful of a sequence, to be honest. I was like, okay, we see what your setup is. And then he's just going to like scream and yell for, although I did like the jewel appraiser and Anna up there, like listening and turning on the radio and putting the phone up so that he could hear the music while he was being drowned. That
it was totally like a bad, 007 spoof, or like a Batman episode. I mean, it was.
Look, I appreciate y'all's perspective as I often do, but I don't think the point of that scene was suspense. I don't think there was any illusion on the part of Klaus or myself that he was getting out of there alive. I think the whole point of that was to slowly torture a character and have him have this ghoulish death. I mean, the fact that Albert's corpse, they stuffed it in the garage after he died and they discovered the body, and he's kind of sitting there rotting. And then as the water rises, his body is kind of like it's sitting upright, and then it's lolling, and then the head, but it's got the one eye that's looking kind of accusatorily at Klaus as it keeps coming into his field of view. I think it's just there to watch this, the guy who from the beginning is the most dangerous, the most imposing character, be brought literally to his screaming knees. I mean, he did everything except call for his mom at the very end. And I gotta disagree a little bit. If he'd stayed outside the car, I still think he would have drowned, because I got the feeling that Anna just kind of stopped the water flow before it filled up to the top because she knew he was already dead.
But
Like, the car.
That's the thing. You don't see him, unless I missed it, you don't see him succumb to the water.
Right.
You see him in the car fighting and screaming and yelling, but you don't see that moment where he literally drowns. So I was thinking at some point she's going to open the door, or she's going to let the water out, and he may still be alive. But
he was faking it.
Yeah, because he literally, if he would have stayed outside the car, there would have been enough gap, because that's how it ends. When everything's done, you still see what's his name floating on the top.
And they deliberately don't show him. Yeah, I kept thinking, I'm like, I also was like just looking at the running time and going, we got another 15 minutes left. Like, this can't be, you only got one character who's still under suspicion at this point.
Well, but that's sort of my point, is like, I think she stopped the water, right? Like, because she knew that he had gotten into the car.
Right. And
that the car is lower than the top of the, the top of the ceiling or whatever. So, but we don't see him drown. And I think, or we don't see him die. I think the reason is because we get the payoff of when Anna goes into that garage and all the water is emptied out. She goes into the car to get his key. Yeah. And when we first see him, he's got this fright mask and his fingers are like almost clawing at the glass, and he's frozen in motion. Like, that's how he died. Like, he had a heart attack in mid claw.
Yeah.
It was one of the most horrific things I've ever seen. And she, if I remember correctly, she had a little bit of a reaction when she got in, because she had to kind of go into his lap to get the key out. I think part of his body like fell on her. She was a little bit shocked.
I think that was actually a fake out, in that she had a reaction, and we think that, maybe he's moved, but instead she's having just a reaction of delight because she has found the keys in his pocket. That's my interpretation. Is that, like, that's a deliberate directorial fake out, is that you see her go, oh, and you're like, oh, there it is. There's our jump scare. But instead it's her just going, I've got the keys now. Now, the treasure is mine.
I love that interpretation.
We have not even mentioned our director's name. And again, I had not, although I realized that I have seen another movie from him, because he is the director of Gestapo's Last Orgy, which is as far from this movie as you can get. But this is Cesare Canevari. And again, looking at his filmography, Gestapo's Last Orgy is the only one of his movies I had seen other than this one. But he is seriously one of my new favorite directors. I want to see more of his stuff because he was such a visualist. I think everyone commented, like, when we talked about our first reactions to it, just how like ornate the camera work is. Like, he's constantly got stuff in the foreground. He's constantly moving his camera. He does that one shot where he zooms out from the assessor up on the parapet, comes down and sees Anna walking, and then he zooms back up there. I was like, guy, you're having a great time, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say another great scene is when Albert is trying to get his heroin back that the other people have taken from him, and they tease him. They put it on like this wheeled like cocktail cart, and they wheel it to him. and the camera work, just showing his detox and all his feelings, and the camera's kind of tilting and turning. It was really good. I wonder if we got to give more credit to the cinematographer, because Gestapo's Last Orgy is, I don't remember any shots like that in that movie, and that movie is, in my opinion, the most notorious of the Nazi exploitation movies. I mean, that movie threw me. I was like,
same cinematographer.
Oh, it really was?
I just love that you guys have seen this movie, this Gestapo's Last Orgy, and I'd never heard of it.
It's not a Giallo.
Are you sure?
Positive.
Oh, okay.
We are not watching that for the show.
Yeah.
I am not watching.
You've been warned. Let's put it that way.
Well,
it's exactly what you think it is.
So you're saying it's a good thing that I'm the only one to not see it.
There's a whole subgenre called Nazi exploitation that the Italians indulged in for a very brief amount of time, and cranked out quite a number of these movies, and they're just universally unpleasant, I think.
Are these like anti-Nazi, or they're like, oh, we gotta get in on some of this World War II glory? What's going on there?
Well, they don't show them in a favorable light, that's for sure.
Okay, that's probably good.
I think they mostly focus on the horrendous crimes that these people did, and they
some
take
nudity.
Lots of nudity. It's like, if you look up exploitation film in the dictionary, that should be the first thing that comes to in the definition.
It's like most things where, they're condemning, these crimes, but reveling in them as well as an exploitation device.
Right. And I'm just thinking like World War, I've, nunsploitation, blaxploitation, like love those genres. But when you talk about like Nazi exploitation, I'm like, that sounds distasteful on levels where I could be damned to all eternity for even putting it on my TV. So yeah, maybe I'll check out Cesare's other work, but or Canevari's, but I'm not in a rush to see that one. But I wanted to bring up something. We were talking about the filmmaking, cinematography, and direction here, and editing. Oh my gosh! But it reminded me of here's my Friday the 13th reference. Everyone take a shot. Sean Cunningham related, or I guess it was Adam Marcus, the director of Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday, on the audio commentary for that movie, related a story about how Sean Cunningham would often take him to task for wanting to do all these crazy setups and camera moves and stuff. And Cunningham kept yelling at him, film school, film school. This movie, Hyena in the Safe, feels very much like the work of a young, ambitious filmmaker, possibly fresh out of film school, who wants to do every single shot as a creative Dutch angle, swinging camera, outrageous costumes, actors not hamming it up, but just looking the most insane and intimidating they probably ever have in their, what sounds like very brief careers. But there's not a moment in this film that is presented in a traditional, like, vanilla layout. Everything is at a weird angle or something crazy is going on. But it doesn't feel overwhelming. It just feels like you're like in on something amazing.
Yeah, I was just looking up our cinematographer, Claudio Catozzo. He really only worked with Canevari. I mean, it seems like the two worked exclusively together, and when one of them was done, the other one was done.
Interesting.
Wow, man. Let's talk a bit about Steve. Not you, Steve. This isn't an intervention. I'm talking about Steve in the movie. He's our guy in the suit who, at first, when we first meet him, I thought he was blind because he's walking in a very kind of, he's got the cane walking stick. He's walking very stiffly, and he doesn't look like he's really focusing on anything. Plus, he's coming up to the estate at night. But no, he's not blind. He's got something else going on. And there's a blade at the end of this cane, and that's where I think some of this James Bond feeling comes in. But what do we make of the Steve character? Is he an archetype we've seen before? Because I can't quite place another character like this that I've seen in another film.
I mean, honestly, I feel like he was there. He was given that distinctive limp, but clearly he's not using, he's not actually impaired, right? No. So it's just there as a decoy to throw people off. to make him feel like he's more infirm than the others physically, makes him less of a physical threat. Turns out he's just as able, and in some ways more so, to have done the murders.
So he's our Kaiser Soze, except not nearly as victorious at the end. And
I like the fact that the blade and the cane is the James Bond reference and not the safe underwater, the glass, the submersible garage, and all the other stuff. But he's got a knife in his cane. Way to go, Ian.
Look, this isn't Accademia Bond, okay? I'd be in remedial class if that was the case. But no, it's I should have said it's one of the elements that like really kind of stands out. Like, oh, that's what we're doing. And you know, as far as him using it, it's interesting that he has a very distinct modus operandi. He tends to just stab women directly in the chest in the exact same spot. That's how he took out Janine, and it's also how he took out I keep forgetting her name, Karina. I keep wanting to call her Nina, in the woods.
And that's how he gets taken out as well.
That's right.
Yes.
Well, he gets, doesn't he get like javelined or something?
Yes,
like,
he does. He
gets
impaled from afar.
Which was really impressive.
No more impressive than the closed camera work, or closed circuit camera work. I was like, wow, who is tracking this?
They're tremendous coverage on that security camera.
Yeah, no kidding.
I thought one of the more interesting characters was Juan, the Spaniard, because he wasn't even supposed to be there. He wasn't part of the original heist. He, according, in the beginning, he says that he won his share from Tomas, in a poker game, because everyone was asking, "Where's Thomas? Where's Thomas?" And he said, "Well, I'm here instead." And it's funny because he gets so involved with these people in all the different schemes, and they don't even question him, because I don't know if it was written in the best way.
Well, and he also go ahead, Jay.
Especially that they question Boris's replacement, the woman, I can't remember her name either, but
Anna.
the one that's hosting the party. Nobody knows who she is, and they're just like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, and he's such a slimy, creepy, sweaty character. He's pervy, he's creepy, and he gets laid twice in like one afternoon with these strange women. Like, really? Maybe there's a little hope for me. I don't know. Maybe there's still hope for me.
I hope you don't end up like Juan, Steve. But that's a very good point, because at one point he seduces is the wrong word. Why does he sleep with Janine? Why does she sleep with him? They're kind of, if I remember correctly, they're in a bedroom and they're kind of having some like weird small talk. And then the next time we see them, they're inside that giant bubble atrium swimming pool thing. And he's talking about like, oh, now that are you repulsed by me now? You were, disgusted by me a little bit ago. I'm like, when did this happen? I feel like there's an entire like 2 hours out of this story that we are missing.
That is true. It's much like the crazy jump cut when Karina and Steve are walking, and he's like, and then they're outside, and that's where I was like, what just happened? Like you were having a conversation. It's like one of those where you're like, so you ask the question, then like suddenly you answer as you're walking through a doorway of another hallway or getting out of a car. I'm like, wait, what happened to the rest of the conversation between this stage and that stage? But again, very visually stimulating. Like you were constantly being kind of caught off guard. So again, I didn't dislike it because of the payoff, but it did. There are just tons of things in this movie that don't make a ton of sense. Hello, Italian cinema.
I was going to say, Kitley, this is another tick in the "This is Giallo" box, as you are constantly reminding when I say, hey, this doesn't make sense. You're like, it's Giallo.
It's Italian.
No, yeah, Italian horror doesn't make sense. Giallo oftentimes makes sense,
but even if it doesn't, end result,
it's still Italian.
No, I'm
catch-all.
You guys, it's a magic trick. You are simultaneously gaslighting me and moving the goalpost. I don't know how that's possible.
Yes. Yep.
You do that all the time, Ian. It's just no different. It's,
You're gonna tell me this isn't even my show. I don't know.
What is the holiday that they're all celebrating? Because I thought it was New Year's at first, but then they said it was like
They
Carnival.
called it Carnival. That's why at first I thought maybe they were in Brazil or something, but no, it's Italy celebrates Carnival as well, but I'm not sure what it is.
Okay. That was my thinking. I thought it was not an Italian holiday, but I guess it is.
I don't remember the specific date. And the only reason I'm remembering this is when they filmed Kinski's Nosferatu, the Herzog one. They filmed a bunch of second unit stuff during the festival that Kinski was supposed to be, that Nosferatu was supposed to be. Sorry, not the original, not the Herzog one, the sequel, Vampire in Venice.
Yeah. Okay.
That one. There was a festival in Italy that they had someone looking like Kinski, the bald Kinski, filming, walking around. And then Kinski came back and said, I'm not shaving my head. So all that got thrown away. Sorry. But that's what it was. It's Italian Carnival.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to step out here and ask, what is Carnival? I've heard of it, but I don't know exactly what it is a celebration of. Is it like Mardi Gras or something like that, or is it?
It's probably just an excuse to drink.
Well, the reason I was wondering if there was like a Mardi Gras celebration is because they do have that giant tent up. So I'm wondering if it's like cold out, like if it's a February kind of a situation. There,
and some people had those big masks on, if I'm not mistaken, as well.
Yeah.
In the street. Yeah. I'm not sure.
Yeah. But that's the other thing that it's a weird, the environment, the world in which this takes place. I mean, as I mentioned, it's a very insular story, but outside of this house, there is this big celebration going on. And as we're being introduced to these characters in the beginning, there's all this crazy, weird, happy 60s music going on in direct juxtaposition to what we're seeing. Like if you were to replace all that music with sinister, like, we're getting these evil people together, they go up to this mysterious house, there's been murder happening, you could put that soundtrack on and it wouldn't be incongruous at all. Like Klaus, he's brandishing the gun inside of his car as Karina is getting out and like wondering what's all this about, and there's this weird guy with the limp and all that stuff. But then occasionally the Carnival element comes back into the picture, as you mentioned, AC, when Anna and Callahan, who's the guy who's going to be appraising the diamonds, they're listening to Klaus dying in the garage, and you can hear all that music being piped through. It's really strange.
I did do a quick search, and it says Carnival in Italy plays a very important part in Italian folklore, traditionally linked to regional masks, and is celebrated in many cities. And it's a farewell party to eat, drink, and have fun before the limitations and solemnity of Lent. So it is very, very much related to the kind of Mardi Gras setup. About a month before Ash Wednesday, they celebrate with parades, masks, and confetti, all of which we saw.
Yeah, I love the confetti that we don't see a whole lot in movies anymore, but it's a little circle confetti that's just like on people's like multicolored Tricks dandruff or something. It's a very cool effect.
Well, the finale, since you're talking about like stuff on people's, like when she's having her like Looney Tunes moment, and you're seeing like all of the victims who are covered in diamonds and just different patterns on their faces and bodies. Again, I don't know. I'm guessing that indicates that she's gone over the edge and has lost her mind, because she knows that the big boss is going to eventually come down in his helicopter and give her what for. But yeah, that was, again, just another like bravuro bit of cinema.
Yeah, that was filmed really, really nicely. And those people, all the characters look like they were bedazzled. And if you live through the if you live through the 80s, you'll get that reference.
Yeah. Well, there's a real design element to that too, because each of the characters, each of the dead that Anna was seeing, and sort of like this guilt, rage, frustration, descent into madness, they all had a distinct look. It's not like, they're just all covered in diamonds. They had really cool patterns and different like lengths of this bedazzlement. It was fascinating. Like throughout the entire film, as we've discussed, it's not only that they're doing crazy things with the camera from that the tea cart that had the drugs on it, to this climactic scene, to that shot you mentioned with Callahan and Karina or Anna, the zooming in and out. There's always something to kind of marvel at that also tells you about what's going on in the story. It's not just fanciness for fanciness sake.
Well, there's some great things, again, the foreground objects that sometimes people would move out of the way so that it would reveal something behind the object that was in place. It was just always an interesting frame to look at, which is not to say it's the kind of beauty that we see in Pupi Avati's, House of Laughing Windows or any of the Bava films, but it was always interesting. I think it was more of like a moving picture as opposed to like, these beautifully composed shots. Which I found really, it's a precursor to Argento going nuts with his cinematography, but it felt very different. It didn't feel like, Argento was cribbing from him. It just felt like it was two different styles.
And interestingly enough, one of the configurations on the bodies of those diamonds did kind of look like, dare I say, crystal plumage. I will say the one bit which I would consider a mistake, if I might be so arrogant, is, and you reminded me of this, AC, in the beginning where we're being introduced to all the characters, Anna is the last person to show up, and she's revealed when Janine moves her legs out of the way. She's kind of, I think she's kind of reclining, and she got her legs crossed, and then she folded, and then she moves her feet, and then Anna's standing there. The problem is, we saw her in that same stairwell or coming down the steps like a second before that. Before the big reveal, she's already revealed. I'm like, oh, that's a little bit. Because I wondered when they showed her, I'm like, oh, is that supposed to be the big reveal, or is it just another bit of fancy camera work? And I feel there's kind of a missed opportunity there, but can't turn off the critic brain.
And how about those? How about the eye makeup in this movie?
Yeah.
I mean, they give Edwidge Fanac a run for her money, or Valerie Leone in Blood from the Mummy's Tomb. I mean, the eyes stop here, but the makeup goes way out here. It's like really cool
and disturbing, because there's enough close-ups of Anna's, of her eyes and what's going on with that makeup, that you see the black kind of giant fake lash tapering off, and then you see the pupil of her eye, but then there's just enough that pink right here that it just looks wrong. Like the illusion isn't quite strong enough to hold up, and I think that also kind of says a lot about what's going on with her character.
I think that makeup's meant to be viewed from a little bit of a distance, not a constant.
I mean, not in 4K, right? Yes.
Can we talk about the ending with the diamonds?
Well,
and Callaghan.
Yes, actually that was what I wanted to talk about next. Is it probably Callaghan? I pronounce it Callahan, but it's probably wrong. But
I don't know.
But he's our appraiser. He's the guy who kind of shows up, and he's waiting for these people to get their act together and open up this safe so he can appraise the diamonds. And I don't think he says anything until like the end of this movie. Does he have any lines up until that end part?
He's mostly just kind of like, lurking around the corner, like waiting to do his job.
He's got a very kind of Buster Keaton kind of affect to him with the hat, and then just kind of like making these muggy expressions and kind of peering around corners.
But I think there's one, the fact that he, this is clearly a murder mystery, whodunit, and because he isn't involved, he becomes such I don't know if he's a red herring or not, but he's definitely somebody that we start suspecting. We go, he's clearly got something to do with this because he's not involved. And because he's not involved, he's got to be involved.
Yeah. And I get it's almost like for the audience, we know that by the end of the movie, well, hopefully all is going to be revealed. We're going to understand who's behind this, who double crossed who, what it all means. He's almost like the physical representation of that. Like,
right. Yeah.
I'm the Russian nesting doll that's going to be completely opened up, but you're going to have to wait a while. And I'm just going to keep popping up to remind you that, hey, the answer is right in here. Yeah. But I was surprised and not surprised at the end when Anna is the last person standing. She gets the keys to open the safe. I thought, especially with the title, Hyena in the Safe, when she goes in to get that, I thought for sure he was going to activate some kind of a trapdoor and lock her in there with the spoils, and perhaps even it was going to be an empty safe, and that would be the joke. And Callahan would have the last laugh. But no, it's straightforward. She brings in this box that's full of apparently really unconvincing looking diamonds. I don't know. But he gets out his little jeweler's eye, which is really cool. And he starts appraising them. And she is all excited because now she's going to be the sole inheritor of this wealth, except she's got to split half of it with the boss, apparently. The appraiser, Callahan, says, these are all fake. And she's like, what are you talking about? He says they're fake. And he takes a thing out and he smashes them and they go into a whole bunch of pieces. And then he kind of packs up and leaves. Why does he take the satchel full of diamonds? Like, what's the logic from his point to her point of view? As far as like, well, why wouldn't he just like leave this big box of fake jewels there? She never questioned that. Right?
I don't think he does take them.
Well, he
doesn't take the big satchel. He leaves them
back, but he's got a few of them.
He's
right?
got a handful of them. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because you're right.
I was like, wait a minute, who's gaslighting who now? Like,
see, how does it feel, AC? No,
it feels great. I love it.
The funny thing is why would he? Because they were in fact not fake.
Right.
Why would he smash one of them? Unless he had a one up the sleeve, no pun intended. But you don't smash a diamond the size of a $50 or fit for a quarter,
right?
Just to prove a point. And you looked at two of them.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big bag of diamonds. And you're just going to look at two of them and go, yep, everyone is fake.
Well, again, he's selling it to her. So she's the one who fell for it. She should have said, I want you to go through every single one of those.
Yeah.
And give me your wrong diagnosis.
Well, and so he goes out to this car outside the house as Anna is completely gone around the bend. And he gets into the car and there's a girl from the Carnival Festival and she's got this ornate necklace on. And he produces a diamond and kind of places it in one of the empty settings in her necklace. And he's like, yeah, there's a whole bunch back in the house. He makes some kind of a comment, if I remember this correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, that he says, I only smashed the fake ones.
Did he say that?
I thought he made some kind of a remark about that, but I don't know if that makes any sense.
I don't remember that because that would have made something would have clicked, but
yeah. But why would there be fake ones in there?
I don't know.
Maybe you said like he like produced one so that he could smash it. I don't know.
I'm just sitting back listening because I'm still completely lost, even with you guys explaining it. No offense.
No, it's kind of it's one of those endings that is presented as, oh, here are all the answers and it all makes sense, but it's so confident in that presentation that you have to sit back and think, wait, are we all being gaslit? Because this doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
So he didn't bring the whole satchel out, correct?
No, he left it. He left that back in the house, and I think he was going to go back and retrieve it.
Right.
So I thought there was a second briefcase that
he
had his own briefcase. No,
I don't think so.
I don't know.
He talked about there being two different stashes of diamonds at the bank that got broken into. One of which was full of fake ones. One was the real ones, and that they'd stolen the wrong one.
Right.
That's where I got my wires crossed because I think that's where I came up with the idea that he had said he smashed the fake ones or something. But yeah, that could be. I think
he did come out with his briefcase or with something.
Yeah, his smaller one.
Yeah, because he wiped the crushed diamonds off.
If he didn't come out with the big bag, then what's the big joke when, he's on a government official working with the insurance company or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Then the girl takes off with the diamonds that he'd given her.
Right.
Okay, well, you got a big bag of the main loot is still in there. What's the big other than
the fact that you're going to get in trouble for losing, whatever thousands of dollars you gave away.
And hopefully smashing the fake one.
Yeah, I think he took two diamonds at the end and put them in her necklace because they mentioned earlier that there were two huge diamonds within that haul that were immeasurable in value.
Twins, that's right.
Yeah, they were immeasurable in value. That's how
right.
big they were.
Well, I can imagine if there's anything that's not accounted for when the authorities show up, he could just say, "Oh well, there's these 6 people or 7 people who are trying to rip you off, and one of them stole them, or they were lost or fell down the drain." I don't know. That doesn't seem as hard a pill to swallow. My question is, we know that Anna went insane in that house.
Right.
I have a couple of questions about that. One, if the boss man is going to show up and he's in a helicopter, he still has, even if he's going to be there right away, he still has to find a place to land it and walk / have a chauffeur drive him to the house and then come up. And she could have gotten away. There are vehicles there, possibly even whatever one she drives around anyway. So why was she so afraid of this guy? And even if she didn't take any money,
you don't just walk away from the mafia.
It'd be one thing if he actually showed up at the door right after Callahan left or something, and she's like, they were all fake, and he's like, pointing a gun at her or something. But it's weird. But the other thing is, Callahan may have seen her start to like turn into a drooling vegetable, is mumbling something about people with diamonds all over them. But still, why would you leave the giant satchel of those diamonds in the house with her to go out and see your side piece in the car? Like, there's still a danger that Anna is even faking going insane, and she's going to take that satchel because maybe she thought, this guy's lying to me, and then takes her chances on the run.
Plus, if he is a plant for the insurance company to be posing as a what do you call it, an appraiser, and he sees people being killed left and right. So obviously we are going to send this person into a den of thieves, so to speak, murderous thieves. Wouldn't you want someone a little bit more that seemed like they could handle themselves?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously he came out okay, but at the end when you're like, oh, he's the insurance guy,
yeah,
and he calls his bosses saying, yeah, they're all dead here. The jewels are sitting here, except the ones that I accidentally just gave away or may not have smashed.
Yeah. He's a pretty cool customer, I got to say.
Yeah. I got to admit, the first time someone dies or sitting there listening to Klaus being drowned, and he's on the phone going, look, listen, I'd have been out of there.
Well, but I think there's a whole Callahan cinematic universe waiting to be told. But I got the feeling that, you're right, John. In any other movie, there's cause for concern, but I got this weird Alfred Pennyworth vibe from him because he's Batman's butler, but he also used to be a killer in MI6. Like he's very unassuming. I think if anybody had attacked him, he probably could have held his own. Because
and that's why he's a perfect red herring, because nobody's looking at him going, "Ooh, he's
dangerous." Clearly,
yeah.
Ian, curious, what are there any cool extras on that Blu-ray release?
There are. I have not a chance to look at any of them, but I can read some off the thing.
Are you Brian Martinez?
No.
He did that in honor of.
That's true. I'm sorry. Brian could not be here today. He's feeling under the weather. Also, Blake was not able to make it. And I'm going to do this. I hope I'm not telling stories out of school, but former guest and current friend of the show, Mr. Troy Howarth, is celebrating a special day today. That's all I'll say. But back in other news.
Happy special day, Troy.
Yes. Commentary by Guido Henkel. There's let's see, interview featurettes.
Guido Henkel sounds like an Italian puppet that was made up to be. Anyway, carry on. Sorry, Guido.
He's not an Italian puppet. Well, he's not a puppet, I can say that much. But no, and for folks who are just tuning in and don't know, I actually interviewed Guido and his son, who runs Celluloid Dreams, back in the summer as part of a Credito Extra for Accademia Giallo. I actually post the link to that down below after the show's over, because it's a hell of an episode and talks about how these guys have this whole outfit where they purchase the rights to these movies. They do all the restoration themselves. They put out these beautiful packages. And I want to say something. This is not a plug, but it's also not a plug. The release for Hyena in the Safe comes with a slipcase. This is the only time, and John, I know how much you love your collectible slipcases, but this is the only time where I've gotten a slipcase that comes flat. It was not actually wrapped around the box. So if you want to try and sell your slipcase or whatever,
vintage,
it's pristine, but also it really makes you consider this to be just a piece of artwork. It's just so unusual looking. But I'm not going to go through all the special features. Suffice it to say, there's a ton on this Blu-ray. So if you're so inclined, even if you're not a fan of this movie, this is such a bonkers film that I should say, if you haven't seen this movie before, I would say it's blind buy territory. But
and Guido, my apologies. I mean, I haven't heard too many Guidos that were not comic figures. So perhaps you're tons of fun at a dinner party, though.
I would imagine so. Now I'm thinking of Father Guido Sarducci.
Exactly.
From the 80s.
It's just my age. Yeah, exactly. It's my upbringing. So apologies again.
Anyhow, I think we're about wrapped up here. Was there a thought that I got sidetracked on? Probably anything I need to finish up?
I just want to tip my hat to the soundtrack of this movie.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys enjoyed it as much as I did, but I mean it's not what you'd expect from a crime caper or a whodunit or an Italian, wannabe giallo. It's very Burt Bacharach-ish, if you know what I mean. I expected to hear like the Herb Albert and the Tijuana Brass and the Baja Marimba Band, but it's I found it really, really enjoyable. And I looked up the composer, a fellow by the name of Gian Piero Reverberi. And he did a couple of movies here and there, but I think he's probably most known because they picked up one of his tracks for Grand Theft Auto London,
really?
1969. It's the main theme for that game. And that's where I heard it before. I was like, oh, wow, it's that guy. Okay. It's really cool.
Because looking at his filmography, there's a lot of kind of like samples of his songs. They end up on like in movies and like you said, video games and things like that. But yeah, super, super fun soundtrack. One that you could totally pop on. Does it come with the CD by any chance?
No, it's just the film. Yeah.
John, where can I find that soundtrack? You would know.
I would have to look into that.
Well, okay, we're going to close out with some comments. We got some. I'm going to put on a disclaimer here because, as I've mentioned in previous shows recently, StreamYard has opened up their streaming to vertical, which allows for people who are on cell phones to have a more pleasant viewing experience. And it also apparently opens it up to a wider audience on the grander internet/YouTube, which is amazing. But it also comes with a caveat. Some of the comments that come in are not always the greatest. And so I'm going to go through, I did a quick look at the comments earlier on. I saw some that were quite horrendous that I will not be reading.
Wow.
And if you are inclined, if you're out there watching to leave things that are wildly inappropriate, not related at all to the show and hateful, just know that you're wasting your time because I will not be reading those. All right. So.
Oh, man. Right.
Okay, so Jonas Hallberg.
We like Jonas.
At the top of the show. Sorry we missed you. Hope you're still watching. Good evening. Good evening, sir. You saw it 2 days ago. Well, marvelous. I don't know if that's a coincidence or what, but I'm glad you could. Let's see. Glad you could join us. All right. I'm a keep it real 2214. I give you your first like.
Thank you.
Great. Yes, thank you. And hearts. Let's see. I like the movie. I agree with John, more Agatha Christie than Giallo. Whose side are you on, Jonas?
Dang it.
Okay. Let's see. We've got one Mad Loco 13. You real AF for that one. That came in at 211, so I have no idea what that refers to. Love it. Steve, this one's for you. Big Swifty is kind of cool.
Legit.
Thank you.
And here's another one in the Kitley camp. Not for me. I also felt this one was more crime caper than Giallo.
Wow.
But hey,
2-0.
No, he said more crime caper than Giallo, so not ruling out Giallo.
Okay.
That's how I choose to live my life, in optimism and hope.
You're the host, Ian. I'll leave it at that.
Oh, there you go. Thank you, Jonas. Oh man, that's mystery solved. There you go.
Took the fake diamonds from the girl in the car and smashed them in the house. What?
Remember, he did say that. He said, she asked
yeah.
about her diamonds, and he had taken her fake ones, gone in, smashed them, and
Yeah,
they came back out.
We should just go rewatch this and then record this again.
I'll see you guys in an hour and a half.
Yeah, I was hoping one of the extras on that Blu-ray would be just a complete explanation of the second half of this movie.
Got a flow chart.
Yeah, exactly.
Diagram.
Well, honestly,
PowerPoint.
here's the thing. I have not listened to the commentary by Guido yet, but on the other releases that Celluloid Dreams has done, he is obsessive about all of the movies that he covers. So I guarantee, Steve, if you get a chance to listen to that commentary, he'll explain everything.
Awesome.
And he'll also let you know if there's any ambiguity, like, oh, they were just making this up, or this doesn't actually make any sense. But if there is sense to be made, Guido will find it. And we're going to close it out with YRN 4895. You guys got to do another classic Ian hasn't seen, like Who Saw Her Die or The Fifth Chord. What do you know about those films, guys?
Did we not do Who Saw Her Die? I felt like we did. We haven't done The Fifth Chord. I know that.
Fifth Chord's amazing.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do The Fifth Chord.
Well, let me just ask the question, guys. Is it Giallo?
I would say it is, yes.
AC, you didn't answer. You look a little
More
like
than well, I need to revisit it through that lens, but I mean, my memory is that it is sold as a Giallo. So
beautiful
Okay, well-
cinematography in that one as well. Beautiful.
Well, you know what? Then that settles it. We're going to be back in a couple months. We're talking like in March. We're going to be back talking about The Fifth Chord. I'm calling it.
awesome.
We'll discuss whether or not it's a Giallo, among other things. So yes, we're going to wrap it up here. Oh, hold on. Here's the verdict is in. It's Def Giallo.
Thank you.
Yes. Def Giallo Jam. All right. Well, we're going to wrap it up here, gang. Thank you so much for hanging out. We went a little bit long today, so we'll get a little bit of a shorter passing period as we leave the classroom. How long can I torture this analogy? But this has been Accademia Giallo, the first of 2026. It's going to be a great year for discussing films, and I'm so happy to have my esteemed faculty, my fearsome faculty here with me on this amazing continued journey. I am always Ian Simmons of Kicking the Seat. We have Steve, aka Big Swifty 500, John Kitley of Kitley's Crypt, and AC of Horror 101 with Dr. AC. Thank you very much for hanging out. Just a couple of quick plugs here. Tonight at 8:30 p.m. Central, you can catch me guest starring on the Spoiler Room podcast with a quite large crew talking about the 1981 Clash of the Titans with Mark Krawcheck and his gang. That'll be a lot of fun. Also, this coming Tuesday, I'll be doing a live stream of the new Chris Pratt, Rebecca Ferguson sci-fi dystopian thriller Mercy. So be on the lookout for that one. And finally, I recently got a gig doing freelance writing contributions as a movie and TV writer for CBR. That's Comic Book Resources. So
cool.
You can check out 3 pieces that I've done up there. So yeah, I'll leave links for all of that stuff in the description. Until next time, gang, whenever that is, whatever that is, thank you very much and take care. And now I'm going to hover over the end stream button and do this the right way.
Class dismissed.
Thanks, AC.